Hello, AP students. This is Mrs. Politsky, and I have your Chapter 6 short answer questions. And we're going to start with number 8. If Julie receives her allowance every Sunday, assuming she has completed all of her chores, she is on which intermittent schedule of reinforcement? And she would actually be on a fixed interval. Number 9, explain the difference between a primary and secondary reinforcer. Primary reinforcers fulfill basic biological needs, while secondary reinforcers have gained its reinforcing power through association with the primary reinforcers. Number 10, briefly explain the difference between positive and negative punishment. Positive punishment adds an aversive stimulus, while negative punishment, sometimes known as omission training, takes away something that is desired, like the car keys or your smartphone. Number 11, how are negative and positive reinforcement differ and how are they the same? Well, negative reinforcement, a negative stimulus is removed in order to increase the desired behavior. So that would be like the sound of a buzzer when you don't have your safety belt plugged in. And once you plug in your safety belt, it's clicked in and the sound disappears. Hence negative reinforcement. In positive reinforcement, a positive addition follows a desired behavior in order to increase the behavior. So that could be praise, pat on the back, things like that. Number 12, under what conditions is punishment effective in the control of behavior? And the only time that it's really effective is when it's consistent. And it's in an environment where there's a sense of control, where someone is not using physical punishment as a way to kind of make themselves feel better, but they're using it in a controlled and probably a very moderate kind of amount. Number 13, what is insight learning? Insight learning involves reorganization of a person's perception of a problem, kind of like your aha moments. And number 14, when Edward Tolman, was working with rats, running them through mazes, he found that they could often find their way to a reinforcer even under different conditions. This seems to suggest that the rats had developed something known as a cognitive map. And number 15, explain how Edward Tolman's findings of cognitive maps in rats has implications that threaten the ideas of classical and operant conditioning. And rats are demonstrating at least some cognition, which necessitates studying what is happening internally in an organism. Not all information that affects behavior is observable. And if you follow the typical behavioralist perspective of psychology, they believe that everything is observable, and hence Tolman is kind of throwing that under the bus in a way. All right, number 16, according to Albert Bandura, explain the potential implications for children who may watch violent cartoons. And according to Bandura, much of what we learn comes from watching others. If we observe others acting violently towards others, we are likely to exhibit more violent behavior. As in cartoons, there is no long-term implications following the violent act, and children may learn to behave in similar ways. Number 17, what does Roscola suggest is a critical factor for the conditioned stimulus in classical conditioning? And he believes that it must be informative. In other words, it's got to predict the unconditioned stimulus. All right, thank you very much.